Some interesting questions to impart on you today here on Frontlines. First and foremost, wherever you're sitting there, put us chat. Let us know where you're sitting, where you're break, where you're at. If you're driving, please be safe. Don't break the law. Don't do the wrong thing. But some interesting questions for today, because it has everything to do with your money. Questions like, how many of you believe it's necessary to have someone other than yourself fighting for you? How many of you think that anyone other than you can fight that fight better than you? Well, if you answered yes to either of these questions, then I ask you right now, humbly, turn off the TV. Go away. The show is not going to do you any good. If, however, you feel opposite of that, and you have a seated belief that you can help shape the future of trucking, and if instead you think that recent changes are geared at making your life better, then I implore you, stop what you're doing, pay special attention to what's talked about in the next 60 minutes. Because, my friends, it's about to get real.
Shall we begin?
From the trenches of trucking experience and a passionate heavyweight in the Truth in Broadcasting Network, welcome to Truckin City News Frontline Podcast, hosted by the most opinionated broadcaster on YouTube, Boss Man.
Howdy ho, and welcome to YouTube's newest podcast. I'm Boss Man, 13 years, a veteran of an industry that I'm passionate can be saved for our children. I've recently begun another passion, however. You see it as it's unfolding. I'm a broadcaster. And with the grace of God and lessons from the greats before me, I have charged myself with the awesome responsibility of title of Commander-in-Chief of what I will forever call the Truth in Broadcasting Network. This immense calling from above is as infectious as a Muppets movie, and one that I don't take lightly. So let me tell you, friends, the trucking industry is open for interpretation. A lot of us, we take for granted what goes on in this industry. And I've recently seen a movement developing on the internet. Mainstream and a host of other shows will fill your head with pre-written and teleprompted garbage created by someone else without an honest ounce of truth or an understanding what this industry does. Frontlines is a show unlike any other. We provide unique, well thought out, and uniquely worded commentary on many stories related to trucking, both related to video and articles. We present this with something no other news-style podcast show can. We provide a mechanism for you to go on record to agree, disagree, challenge, accept, whatever we put on screen. All other shows just promise propaganda. Say that 5 times fast. We show promise. Don't just sit listlessly waiting on the news machine to crank out miracles for you. Take up the charge today. Join the movement. Help yourself and help others. Subscribe to Trucking City Media. I've started a movement, and I'm completely serious. This movement will gain footing. We will teach you what we know and allow you to teach others what you know. And we will make trucking great again. You can call in our studio line, 860-785-3547. 860-785-3547. You can make all the noise you want. Agree, disagree, prove them wrong, prove me right, however you like. Or you can send us an email with your thoughts on future shows or critique on this show. I welcome it. I turn nothing down. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. I welcome dissent. It creates a forum for learning. If you'd like to, as one person already has and is waiting, click the StreamYard link. As time permits, I'll bring guests on. You can state your opinions, air your dirty laundry, whatever. Keep it respectful. Be part of the show. Be part of the solution. Join the movement. Don't forget to like the show before it's over with. Likes help YouTube get my message out. We are the show that all others cannot be. Don't just watch the news. Start a movement. Subscribe today. I'm easy to find. TruckinCityMedia.com. TruckinCityMedia.com. One man, one mission. Today's story, highlighted by the thumbnail you see, starts with me, and it starts with you. But today's story is based on one man, one mission. He feels it's necessary to get up in front of lawmakers and talk as if he represents an industry. An important meeting took place in Washington on the 24th, where once again, our industry was talked about like it was up for sale. The CEO of the OIDA, Louis Pugh, was asked to testify on Capitol Hill on behalf of truckers about an administrative agenda. Happens all the time. Every year, they go up and they spew a bunch of garbage. One organization, supposedly representing a vast and diverse group of trucking professionals, for which I don't belong, and I don't think most on this panel belong either, made observations about us and our industry and made an argument that caught my attention. Take a listen to what he said.
Chairman Crawford, Ranking Member Holmes Norton, and members of the subcommittee. I'm Louis Pugh, and I'm a proud trucker.
Proudly started out like an AA meeting. Keep going, my man.
OIDA is the largest trade association representing small business truckers, 150,000 members in all 50 states who operate collectively 240,000 pieces of equipment. Small trucking businesses account for 96% of all registered motor carriers in the U.S., and they are undoubtedly the safest and most diverse operators on the road. Trucking is one of the most heavily regulated industries in America. From the number of hours you can drive, to the color and width of tape that you must put on your trailer, to even when you can go home, every element of trucking is controlled by regulation. Some folks want to mandate speed limiters on all commercial vehicles while dismissing the disastrous consequences and concerns of highway safety and supply chain issues. Others with no experience in a commercial motor vehicle want to mandate the use of unproven and cost-prohibitive equipment like side underride guards. Unfortunately,
No, I'm not going to bore you with the entire meeting, but what's about to come up is what caught my attention. Listen close.
these examples only scratch the surface. Congress and DOT have an inconsistent record when it comes to crafting regulations. On a positive note, Ranking Member Holmes Norton has championed a bipartisan legislation to fight freight fraud, and Representative Van Drew has introduced a bipartisan bill to eliminate the overtime exemption, to ensure drivers are paid for all the hours that they work. In contrast, other lawmakers, at the behest of trial lawyers, have continued to push a massive 500% increase in liability insurance minimums, despite knowing the existing minimum covers the cost of 99% of crashes.
Now, what caught my attention on this long-winded explanation from a man representing an industry that, need I remind you, represents only 150,000 of its own member base. We've got millions of drivers in this country. And I'm sorry, but I have trouble subscribing to one outfit's interpretation of the industry. While Mr. Pugh speaks highly of the committee he addressed and accurately about the state of our industry, he fails to convey the unanimous urgency of many today that feel every change has consequences. Even though many of the issues addressed in his hearing were, in his words, burdensome and time-consuming, I think he failed to mention the elephant in the room, which is the origin of most of these problems. So this is one of the things I want to focus on in today's show, and I'm going to welcome the guests here in a second. But using only one sentence caught my attention in pointing out that people in power with no experience in our industry favor rules on trucking without thinking through its effects. He speaks of a minority of 150,000 members of an organization and their feelings on issues. The whole time he speaks like it's the entire industry's benefit by just them being at Congress. While it's great to have someone speaking the truth about the state of our industry, it's obvious that one outfit that represents less than 25% of the entire industry should speak for them. And I think it's time he changed his tune. Moreover, I think it's time the lawmakers change their tune. Speaking about, in his words, a positive note, did you catch that? When he said on a positive note, he spoke of two laws. One, okay, everybody has problems with the underride cards. But the other one, it seems his organization is pushing and condones Senator Van Drew's outlook on the overtime exemption. Now, I can speak for myself, and I'll let the panelists speak behind me momentarily. But we don't need no exemption. We don't need to change what works. Because once you do one small change in an industry as big, as broad, and as diverse as ours, you open up a Pandora's box, which you'll never, and I emphasize, never be able to close. So let's talk about this today. Let's bring on the guests. Let's have us a powwow, and let us sort out the front lines of trucking. Welcome to everybody on the panel. Welcome to the audience, guests, and those leaving comments. We'll get to your comments here in just a moment. Big John, I see you're wearing another shirt a day like today. It's the Adventures of John. Am I seeing that right?
It's Adventures of John, yes.
All right. Walk down an adventure with me on your thoughts on overtime exemption. What do you think, or do you agree with Louis Pugh's thoughts on whether or not that should be pushed forward?
Well, we already have an exemption and we can't be paid overtime. What he's referring to is getting rid of that exemption so we can be paid overtime. The problem with people pushing rules out there that don't think about the side effects of those rules is exactly what caused the Chevron deference. They tried to deregulate by passing this thing and ended up causing more regulations. Same thing here. Yeah, it sounds great. We all get paid more overtime. What's the outcome of that? Well, maybe companies bring on more trucks and drive you less hours, so they don't have to pay overtime. Over long periods of time, that might pay off. I don't know. But
right,
you got to think about the side effects of getting rid of a law that's been in place. So, yes, you're right. It would cause all kinds of turnover and issues and stuff that we couldn't foresee.
Yeah, I mean, I've said for a long time that every small change you make nets immense results you may not have intended. So when it comes to thoughts about changing a pay structure, which currently works, yeah, it's not perfect, but what do you think, Tom, of the idea of making such a huge change? What do you think would happen to the industry the moment we're forced to adhere to that 40-hour standard?
It would be the end of OTR trucking as we know it. I know all the drivers immediately say, oh my God, we'll get paid overtime over 40 hours. We're going to run 70 hours a week. They're going to pay us 40 hours regular time, 30 hours overtime. Where do they get that money? As you know, carriers right now are struggling. They're barely keeping themselves afloat. You got big carriers like Werner operating at a loss, Heartland operating at a loss. These are publicly traded companies. Everybody knows they're losing money. Do you think they got the money to pay overtime? No, they don't. Simplest solution in the world. 2 drivers per truck. You run 4, then you're off. Somebody else runs 4, then they're off. Slip seat the trucks. They don't have to buy any more trucks. They don't have to pay any additional money, and they get more hours out of you.
So what do you think, following up on that, Tom, what do you think would happen to the current load board structure the way it is? We currently see rates floating between $160 $2.
Won't affect lease operators whatsoever. Lease operators are independent carriers. Lease operators and owner operators are independent carriers, 1099. They don't get overtime, period.
Why split up an industry and have only company drivers hold to that 40-hour slip seats thing you're talking about? Why not expect that same thing from a safety standpoint, those other ones like lease operators you're talking about? Or
if this isn't for safety reasons, this is for being paid overtime reasons, fairness. So what happens is the Teamsters actually fought to make sure we had this exemption so that carriers wouldn't force us to only run 40 hours a week. If you think about it, there's many other ways carriers can do this. They can run relay runs where you're home every night. Hey, people who are home every night don't get paid what we get paid. We're making 6 figures out here doing this job. Do you think we're going to get 6 figures for sleeping in our own beds?
No. That would change. Now, let me ask you, Frank. You're the grumpy guy. You always look at the grumpy side of things. What do you think your future would look like if you were told and regulated to the point where, you can't do what you currently do because you currently get home on what you believe is an acceptable schedule. And now because your whole structure of your entire company changed, you're a company driver, now you're forced to work hours you're not comfortable with. What's going through your mind the whole time Chris or Louis Pugh is up there in Congress talking crap about, changing this overtime thing? What goes through your mind?
Well, currently with the company I work for, I'm usually home every weekend, so it really wouldn't have any effect on me. It's not going to help me. I'm not going to benefit from it because, generally I don't even work close to 70 hours before my clock's up. So, it's not going to be beneficial, I don't think, because like Tom and John are saying, it's going to cost the companies more, and they're going to figure out ways around it.
Yeah. In your years of experience there, Little John, you've been in this a while now, 22, 24 years, something like that? Similar out?
23.
Yeah. So in your time, have you worked both ends of this, both as a company driver and an owner operator? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've got both sides of it.
Yeah. If you were told and how you have to work and what money you were to get paid more than you are today, what are your thoughts?
I'd be looking for a new profession.
Yeah. Just the idea itself that there's somebody up in Congress trying to talk on a hearing about the state of the industry that, as I opened the show, I said only represents a small fraction. What are your thoughts, Fate? Do you have anything else to add to this? It's a really small percentage. 150,000 people behind him, and yet our industry has millions. You're one of those millions because you don't
money, man.
You're not represented by OIDA. Yeah.
No.
No,
he represents.
Go ahead, Fate. Go ahead.
I'm saying this very apprehensively. It is like the NRA. It is a lobbying tool. That's all it is. And to think that a lobbying entity has your best interest in mind is wrong. They're in it for the money. Now there might be things they do to help you or whatever, but in the end they're in it for the money. That's my personal opinion. I haven't, regulations are part of trucking, man, and they're not going away. And
Well, true.
regulations is a part of every aspect of our lives.
True.
That's just
Yeah.
that's just the reality.
Well, my purpose in the show is to welcome people like yourselves in the panel and those in the audience in. I want more feedback than just that which I see on the news, because I don't know about you, but I don't trust the news media. I never have. The news media has a tendency to slant every story, every aspect in every industry in a nature that favors them. So my mission in having this channel and this platform is to get beyond the noise and the propaganda that's barked out in the dark every day in this country. So let's welcome in some other commentary from others watching. We got Alex M, who's also a new, semi-new face. Trucker Curse, we've been seeing you on a regular basis. 7Cs says, I don't think overtime is the issue. Y'all need to be paid better for your detention. Good point. And it was something I was going to raise later on. Detention is not mandatory, but a lot of companies are paying more attention to it. I mean, somebody in a panel would like to independently just pipe up with their thoughts, by all means, but I think detention is one of those crutches that, like Fate said a minute ago, these lobbying organizations are using to push through this justification on overtime pay. What do you guys think?
Well, I would like to say two things. Midlife already beat me to it in the comments, but I don't have a computer in front of me, so I got to give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
That guy represents owner-operators, but he's talking about overtime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Think about that for a second. But besides that, sorry about that.
Wait a minute, John. Let me correct you. Let me correct you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Am I wrong?
He doesn't just whatever that acronym is, doesn't just support owner. Like an owner operator can have a fleet.
And a carrier.
You understand what I'm saying?
But he doesn't represent a company driver.
Well,
technically speaking, Scott's right. He can represent drivers, but indirectly. Because if you have a fleet of trucks, you have with you employees under you. You have to pay. Whether they're independent or not is irrelevant, but you have to pay employees the same way the mega carriers do company drivers. Either way,
I understand,
you've got to cover that. So by default, you're covering drivers too.
I understand, but his loyalty is to owner-operators and carriers.
No.
I'm not a paying member of his. Yes, I'm not a paying member of his.
I disagree with you. I disagree
OIDA stands for Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association.
Independent.
Right. Midlife, you
Not
yourself corrected me months
now,
ago.
there are a few company drivers who join it, but it is primarily owner operators.
You told me months ago. Here's the thing. You told me months ago, this man right here does represent the Independent Owner Operators Drivers Association, or however you said it, but he represents his members. Okay, I'm an owner operator. He doesn't speak for me. Tom, you're an owner operator. You don't get spoken for because you're not part of his organization.
You mean we're company drivers?
Members. Well, aside from that, you get my point though. Only those under his tenure can he speak for. He does not speak for you and me, nor does he speak for Fate, nor does he speak for Driving with John or Grumpy, because we don't belong to his outfit. You know, John, you're right. He does represent primarily owner operators, yes, but he don't speak for me.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was basically saying, look at who he represents. It's like a business owner. A business owner is looking out for his own good, right? Well, this guy's own good is to look out for the members that pay him.
Yep.
If you're not one of his members, he's not looking out for you. He's looking out for what his members want.
Yep.
So that was kind of where I was going with it. So.
Well, it's a good point. It's a good point. Let me get back to my comments here because I was about to highlight 7C's next comment. Many home daily drivers make six figures. He's basically agreeing with Tom. Here's a new face. Vivian Legue. I'll just say Vivian. I butcher last names. You said it all, Midlife. We all know it will screw up everything. And in my industry, 70 hours, it's just our drive time. I do, and you're going to like the comment I'm going to highlight in a minute. I do my clock isn't running. Okay, I don't know what is meant by AHH. My clock isn't running during the loading and offloading. Granted, I'm an owner-operator, let's face it. It will also wind up regulating us next. I'm thankful I work for me. Well, I'm glad you contributed to the show, yes. It's kind of part and parcel to what was said a minute ago. Just who the hell are these people
Hold on, can I say
representing?
one thing on that?
Go ahead, Faye.
Just so, what was her name?
Vivian.
Vivian?
Yeah.
Just so you don't get in trouble with your hours of service, make sure you are documenting loading and unloading time on your logs.
Yeah.
You said in your comment that you don't do that.
Yeah.
You better start doing that, even if it's only 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You need to document loading and unloading time. It's
Yes,
not,
you really do.
you know, like I
Yeah.
said, 10 minutes. At
And your fuel
least
time.
10 minutes.
Yeah, and your
Yep.
fuel pre-trip, post-trip. Yeah, make sure you're documenting, because not doing that will run you into some serious problems, and we can spend another show talking about those possibilities. Trucker Kersey in the house says Congress has no idea what it's doing with any topic in our industry. I dare them to come spend a week OTR with me. Hey, there you go. Maybe along the lines, I'll come spend the time and I'll be the second camera. Gotcha. But it makes a good point, though. You know, they really, these people, and I pick on Louis Pugh. I would even pick on Todd Spencer, but it doesn't matter who you talk to. If it's Chris Spears, if it's Louis Pugh, if it's any major outfit going to Congress on our behalf, I don't think they have our best interests. And part of the reasoning behind today's show is just highlighting the fact that, you know what, only one person can speak for us, okay? And that is us. We have to speak for ourselves. We have to step up to the plate and let our voices be heard. And thankfully, God has allowed me the grace of having this platform and ability to do just that. So I encourage anyone watching this on the replay, get involved, make phone calls, be vocal. I can't tell you where to go and what to do. I don't know it all. I'm relying on you for some of this. But don't sit on the fence. Speak out. Let's make trucking great again. We can do this.
I want to jump on board with what she said. If there's a senator, a congressman, a president of the United States, a vice president, anything out there, and they want to ride in my truck, come on. Maybe
Amen.
then they'll understand. Maybe they'll understand what we're going through. That's what she's basically saying. I get it. Like that's a very that's how it should be, honestly. Not that you can be in everybody's shoes, but somebody in Congress or Senate has to know what it's like to sit in the captain's chair and navigate for like a week.
Yes.
I know you're saying no, Fate, but yes. I mean, we're supposed to have representation, right? Who represents us? Who represents us?
Right.
I'm saying no, because I don't want any federal person in my truck. I will be brought up on some heavy charges if that happens.
Well, I'd allow it.
Well, everybody.
And the reality is, John, we're saying we would love to see one of these people in our truck. Could you imagine having their jobs? Come on. Well,
you know what? Let me shadow them for a week and they shadow me for a week. That way we both understand each other. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. To each their own. Everybody's got their lot in life. Mine, I'm a trucker before I'm a broadcaster. I'm a broadcaster before I'm anything else. And I openly claim to you people, I don't know it all. I have a talent, and that talent is having a way with words and a way of analyzing a news story and pulling apart the issues. The rest is up to you. But for anyone and everyone to do opposite of what we're talking about, you know, like Fate, you don't like people in your business. I get that. I respect that, brother. You have every right to feel that way. But you know what? Everyone's unique. John may not like that, but he'll get along with it if it proves a point and moves the industry in a forward momentum. Tom may be all about, well, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the actual common sense behind it. And Grumpy may just not really care as long as it gets a paycheck. Picking on you, friend. But, you know, whether it's Little John or me, everyone needs to do their part. You know, we can sit here all day long and point out all the fallacies and what's wrong with regulations, but only by action can we actually walk the walk and talk the talk. Moving on to comments, because I got a couple other ones here. Household moving, don't know what that's about. Oh, HH, gotcha. I'm right in your ball camp. I'll explain later. Catch up on my vlogs. You'll see what I'm talking about. Lisa Perry's in the house. It comes down to researching an employer first. I teach, but know the trucking industry well. Federal government makes decisions based on the group as a whole, not the individual or small entities. Good point. I appreciate the contribution, Lisa. Good point indeed. Now, I can't really broadcast this. All I can do is read. But the very video that I brought forth was part of a news blast from Mother Trucker. I follow him for some ideas, and that's pretty much it. He does have a good show. But one of the comments under one of his videos said, and I quote, and I'm not going to say people's names, I'm just reading the comment, ELDs should be removed, and we should return to paper logs. I don't agree with that. I don't think ELDs are the problem. I think some of the rules and how they're run can be improved, but ELDs are not the problem. What do you think, Fate? You think ELDs should be changed or modified? What do you think?
Statistically, it didn't make the roads any safer.
No.
That's why they said they were doing it.
Yeah.
No, what?
But why did it make the roads more dangerous?
Well, did you say no?
Were you disagreeing with him, Tom?
Well,
or
that's.
not?
I think.
No,
Here-
I'm going to point out why it
No,
made the roads more
here's
dangerous.
the thing. Drivers make the roads more dangerous.
Yes.
Let's be clear about that.
Exactly.
Yes,
The individual driver makes the roads dangerous.
exactly.
Statistically, there's more accidents, there's more fatalities.
Absolutely correct.
What
You know why there's
when
more
they did
accidents?
a study.
You know why there's more accidents? Because they don't clamp down with a heavy hand and say, look, you had 11 hours to find parking. Don't start looking for parking 10 minutes before. That's the problem. You got all these drivers out here who get out to the last minute, and then they pull into the rest area. There's no parking, and they say, oh, crap, I'm going to go into violation. They drive like a maniac.
Or they pull onto the ramp, or they pull onto the ramp into the cause of the next fatality accident.
Can I jump in on that one?
Mhm.
Go ahead, John.
So, not that I disagree with you, 100% pre-planning is important. But part of pre-planning, because you know what, electronics go down. Make sure you have your atlas.
Yeah, but that atlas tells me there's a bridge on 695.
Yeah, it gets
How'd
you
that
through
work out,
99%
John?
of the country.
Usually I can smell a setup coming, John. You surprised me on that one. What do you think, Grumpy? Do you think ELDs need to be changed, improved, or maybe even gotten rid of? What are your thoughts?
No, actually, I'm for the ELD. It's just like everybody else is saying. You got to have your planning right. You've got to have everything in order. I mean, if
Not
you don't,
everybody.
sure, okay. Anyhow, if you're not in order with it and you're not following it as it's meant to be, it's not going to work for you. And that's what a lot of things going on is everybody's like, I don't like this because I can't do what I want to do. And that's what's causing it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to mess with those paper logs and stay on those because they can fidget them. They can do what they want. They can run 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
No.
Now, here lately, I don't know if Little John, you've had this experience, but here lately, a lot of people have been saying just exactly what comment I highlighted, which is ELDs need to be blah, blah, blah. But as much as we talk crap about the safety behind ELDs, I think what needs to be cracked down on is the ability to run multiple drivers on one single ELD. Lately, there's been a number of stories. I don't know if you've experienced this or know of this, Little John, but ghost drivers. There's one particular accident in Kentucky that I recall I highlighted in a previous live. Look it up. The driver that was involved in that accident was running a ghost driver, a co-driver that did not exist. So I mean, when it comes to ELDs, Little John, I mean, what are your thoughts about the ability of companies to actually fudge those numbers and make you look like you're driving hours you're not. What do you think there?
They shouldn't be allowed to.
Thoughts about the
They, I don't think they should have anything to do with our e-logs. Those are ours. We're responsible for them. So
Yeah.
why would we let them touch our logs when they're sitting behind a computer?
Yeah, exactly. Yet historically they can get in and edit to a small degree things like yard mows and PC. Now they're limited. There's certain things they can do, and there's certain times where even I've been, I've been on the bad end of, mistakes made. But they always typically, the companies I've worked for, typically defer editing of logs off to the manufacturer, i.e. Samsara, Keep Truckin, whatever e-log.
They can edit all day long.
Okay.
That log is only valid if you click verify or certified. So it is
Right.
on the driver. If
Right.
you drive after you're out of hours or you violate HOS, that's on you, the driver, because you click certified. And when I'm sorry, when that fictitious company out of Illinois runs down the road and they put the driver that was in there last Monday who didn't exist, hey, and you click the word certify, you agreed with it, you should take the charges.
Exactly. You got something to add, Grumpy?
I agree with you.
I do.
Go ahead.
Basically, what we're on here about that, I know somebody that he's worked for several different companies that are based out of Illinois mostly, that do that ghosting quite a lot because he was, bragging about how they would reset him and give him a total fresh clock. But these companies are doing this, and they're not even in the United States. They're over in another country doing this. This has got to stop. We need to stop that. It should be ran from our country, taken care of in our country, and only be allowed to be done in our country. This over the seas thing, no.
Yeah, I agree. You got something to add, John?
Yeah, I just want to point out, a lot of people think ELDs make the drivers more accountable. Honestly, if you're an honest driver, you're going to run the same on paper as you do on ELD. And if you cheat, you're going to cheat on paper, same as you do ELD. It doesn't change. The cheaters are still cheaters, and the honest people are still honest people. But the one thing I would say is, I don't think everybody should be required to be like, I'll give you a great example. Someone in our audience down there, 7Cs. If you're a one-man operation, why do you need to do all that ELD stuff when you can run on paper and you're home, you don't use your 70 up? And he's home every day pretty much. Like,
well,
there are cases where it's not completely necessary.
True that.
If everybody was honest, we would not need a law about shoplifting. We wouldn't need a law saying you can steal a car or truck because, same thing with ELDs. I make the laws for the dishonest folks.
Exactly. Trucker Kersey brings up an interesting point. John, you kind of highlighted a part of this, and I feel it necessary to mention what's below. Trucker Kersey said COVID brought out more irresponsible drivers into trucking. And you know what? To a degree, Kersey, you're right. But I'm going to take that comment a step further. And I'm going to kind of blend the two together. Because John said a minute ago, the people running them have the choices to make. And you're saying COVID brought out things. Well, there's a blending going on. Because you know what? The machines in question are only as honest as the operators. And you can sit there and contemplate all day long reasons and blame, but it always comes down to you. You are the arbiter of your future, and you are the one that makes the decision. And if you allow a company, going back to what I was saying a minute ago, to edit your logs and make you look like you did something, and you then further go back and certify that, knowing that that entry is in there, you're just as culpable as the company that does it to begin with. So you really have to be careful. And the idea that we can use these things to the degree that makes us dangerous is, first of all, the problem in itself. Secondly, there are those in the industry, to John's point, that feel that just the idea itself of the ELD being there in your mind puts you in a more stressful environment and makes you more dangerous. So, anyone want to add to that before I move on to point 2?
The last point that you had there, you were talking about makes you more dangerous. Well, think about it. If we touch our phone, we're breaking the law, and we could be fired if you're a company driver. ELDs are there. I mean, you toggle back and forth from screen to screen.
Yep.
Is there any difference? It's still a distraction.
John, we're not
It
supposed to toggle back and forth between screen to screen on the ELD.
I don't.
You're not.
I don't, because I run 100% clean. But I'm just saying, I know it happens, and everybody on this board knows it happens. If you want to candy coat it and pretend you don't, it doesn't. Then okay. But everybody here knows it happens.
Griff USMC in the house. Afternoon. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Another new face. Morning.
I
folks.
forgot to email that dude.
No, Mike Daisy's not a new face. Hi, Mike Daisy.
RGB in the house says, agree, you should be able to plan out your route as well as a backup plan. Apparently agreeing with what Tom said earlier.
100%.
Mike says, should not happen. Don't know exactly what that was said. The agricultural exemption, Truckin Kersey says, is allowing single drivers to run ridiculous hours. Good point. Good point. Agricultural exemption gives a lot of people a golden ticket to dangerous circumstances.
They're confined by miles.
Well,
I'm gonna. There are circumstances where exemptions make sense, and that is one of them. I know she's not a fan of it, but there's a reason for it, and most of those people are home every day anyway, so it's not like they're running 1,000 miles in a day.
Yep. So. I think something that Grumpy was talking on earlier pipped her up. Vivian says, yet another problem is one of foreigners. Not all. I have one get a CDL here. I'm trying to read because it kind of looks like it's a run-on. And more than one is driving the truck. They don't even use their mirrors. They're causing a lot of accidents. They don't pre-trip or take care of their trucks. Yeah, to a degree, I agree with you because a lot of people tend not to take as seriously the job we do. And other cultures have other processes. I don't know if that's a really accurate way of wording it. They do it differently. And I don't exactly like that. But a lot of that has to do with training. I don't care what nationality you are, what language you speak. If you're trained properly, you do the job right. Anyone disagree with me?
English, though. That's the law.
True. But it all comes down to training. And I think all of us have covered that here. Did you want to add something?
Actually,
I had your hand up a minute ago. I thought you were wanting to say something.
Who, me?
Yeah, you. You're in the.
No.
Yeah. Anytime,
no,
just so you guys. Yeah, just so you guys are aware. As I'm learning this broadcasting thing, if I tend to move you to where I'm sitting right now, the way this window's organized, if I move you all the way to the left, I'm usually going to address you. Just so you know. I'm not trying to make you look stupid or anything. But that's how I'm trying to run the show so I can get an equal coverage on everybody in the show. Just like you. Go ahead, Grumpy.
Okay, as another one of our subscribers that is also a member of my group brings out at times, Nan, also known as Girl in a Semi on YouTube. There are a lot of foreign drivers. Yeah. There are some that are great drivers and are very professional. But then there's the other ones that's like they just found them out on the street and said, here's your CDL, jump in that truck and drive it. And that's one of the things I'm kind of hitting at with this lady that just spoke a while ago.
Right. And Trucker Kersey adds to it, and I didn't know this. She says it's meant for short, but talking about the agricultural thing. But companies are using it. You would be surprised at what tanker companies using it. Okay,
yeah,
good
so
to
you
know.
can.
Go ahead, Faye.
You can use the agricultural exemption. Mm-hmm. The thing is, it's mileage based. So like you can't use the agricultural exemption for the whole load if it exceeds the mileage. I think the mileage is like 200 miles. So you can use it 200 miles away from wherever you pick up, and then you can use it 200 miles before you get to the receiver. You can't use it for the whole thing. And
right.
I can fall underneath that exemption a lot of times for what I haul.
Right.
you can't use it through the whole length of the load. That makes
Right.
sense?
Okay.
Yes, but
Now-
that can easily be abused. Hey, tell me, guys,
Oh, it does. Yes.
when you look out and you see that your DOT number is on cardboard, what does that
Hold on. Hold on. We're getting an exclusive shot from Midlife's front cam. Yeah, that
Oh, we
right
see-
there.
We
I
see
think
that every
should
day.
be
Come on.
outlawed. Yeah, I think that should
Yeah.
be outlawed. I mean, it's
Yeah,
one
well,
They
thing,
just
Tom.
I had to help Victor. That's Victor's truck. I had to help Victor jumpstart his truck off the refurb because he doesn't have any cables and didn't know how to do it and doesn't speak
Okay.
English. And the shop was tired of dealing with him here. Fortunately, I
Well,
had
I think
cables
it's one thing.
to help him.
Yeah, I think it's one thing. Not picking on your friend. I mean, I think it's one thing
I
to
don't
be a
know him.
temporary, and yeah, well, okay. I'm just being respectful, but I think it's one thing to be temporary, but I think it's another to be expected. Make it look decent, dude. Cardboard, really?
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, let me move on to
Just,
one other point I wanted to talk about here. So just keep it in mind because we're still not out the topic. Another person on Mother Trucker's video said eliminate. Tell me what you guys think of this. And I'm gonna abbreviate this because it's a lengthy comment, but I'm gonna tell you the good points. And I think this brings about some interesting way of thinking. The commenter says eliminate the 70-hour rule, eliminate the driveline rule. The only rule that should have the 14-hour rule with no need to change duty status. Come off your break, go on duty, and then hit that 14-hour mark. 14 on, 10 off. Now
Reefer
that's
drivers
why I'm
hate
not.
that. Reefer
Well, I was gonna
drivers
say that's why I'm
absolutely
not.
hate that.
That's why I'm not identifying the people. But think about the implications behind that. If that commenter were to get his way, what do you guys think? I mean, that to me sounds like the ultimate in standard boilerplate responses. Everybody would love that. But how
Well-
unsafe would the roads be the moment something like that happens?
If you did something like that, I think you would do it with, like a certain, like if you've been in the industry this many years, you probably could get away with that. But newer guys coming in, I couldn't have done that when I was brand new. There's no way. A 14-hour day? I mean, I
Yeah.
could do it now easily, but
Yeah.
I couldn't back then.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
because how many people actually with no experience can handle the rigors of figuring out when's a safe time to stop? Because not everybody can do 14. Sometimes I only do 8-9 hour days. I could go
Also-
my full 11, but I choose to
Al-
stop because I want the consistency in my hours.
Right.
You know,
Well,
but-
also another thing is new drivers, they get pushed really hard by the companies. And
Yeah.
they allow the companies to push them. When you've been
Yeah.
around a while, you
Yeah.
don't get pushed around anymore. You're like, no, that's not safe,
Mm.
and there's nothing they can really do to you. But new people don't know that, so they can be pushed into unsafe situations in that kind of
Yeah.
a scenario.
Guys, I'm going to ask you in the audience to be patient with us. We're going to run long today because I have another topic related to exactly what we're talking about, but it's one that was actually suggested to me by a panelist in here. I'll give him credit when time's right, but it's important because everybody wants the same thing we do. Everybody together wants fair regulations, wants fair treatment. But what I'm about to talk about, I think is going to slightly change things a little bit. So please bear with me, guys. One more highlight on a comment, and we're going to move on. I'm given an exemption 7Cs when hauling fuel sometimes. So I'd say logs are not always about safety. Okay.
That's true.
I can get that. I can get that. Kersey says under 30 crowd seems to be on a lot of anxiety meds. That's more of a problem than training. A great student would research and learn. Someone can't handle anxiety shouldn't be driving. Agree 100%. Good point, Kersey. Says I get a lot of, I got to get driving. Thank you for joining us. I love the fact that you're part of our show. We had a couple other ones drop out, which is the whole reason I made the comment I made a minute ago. So let me move on to the next thing. And I don't have anything graphically to represent what I'm talking about. But a recent article filed in, Tom, quote me if I'm wrong, is it a trucking outfit? I don't know. You can tell me where the article came from. I'll tell you in a minute. But the article said,
No idea.
huh?
I have no idea.
Okay. I'll figure it out in a minute. I'm just going to get on to what I wrote down as my intro to this. I titled it myself, Mastering the Art of Distraction, mainly because the article goes to talk about everything we just covered basically in the first part of this show and the hearings and all this stuff that needs to happen with regulations and fair treatment. But in introducing a bill to reverse the Supreme Court ruling we just gotten done talking about 2 or 3 lives ago, this Chevron deference. The Supreme Court decision that reigned in the unchecked power of federal agencies, they want to overturn this. This decision, folks, is a significant win for those of us who believe in limited government. But now, Senator Elizabeth Warren and her cohorts want to bring back and overturn what's recently been done. This doctrine allows federal agencies to interpret laws as they saw fit, giving them almost unchecked power to impose regulations. We now have a time and a chance to actually take back some sensibility in trucking. And if we have Republicans in charge, there's no telling what's going to happen. But if Democrats remain in power, who knows? Big question mark. Now, I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm not making this political. But
You just did.
I did.
We do not want the Chevron to stay overturned. We do not. The last thing this world you want is the hours of service to become a law rather than a regulation. You know what you get when you violate a regulation? You get put out of service. You know what you get when you violate a law? You get whatever the penalty is prescribed by that law.
True.
Fine, jail time.
You're talking about but one part, Tom, of this entire picture. Hours of service.
You don't think they're going to regulate the whole? You don't think they're going to regulate this whole green book?
Guess what?
No,
Guess what?
No.
Though
they could if they wanted to. What do you think, John? You got something to add?
The importance of that, of overturning that, was that it gave us an opportunity to fight back. Now you can fight against the regulation if you don't like it. If you have the money and the time, you're more than welcome to go fight that battle.
I believe.
I get what Tom's saying, but
I believe what he's saying.
If it's a law,
I believe what he's saying is true. I take your side, John. But what I'm doing is I'm taking your comment, John, and I'm writing it a step further. Okay, we now have a chance to force regulators and lawmakers' feet to the fire. See, prior to now, all they had to do was say, have a rulemaking committee, put out a 45-day comment period, and they could write a law and make it a law. They had no kickback, no challenge, no grievance. You know, and people like you and me, we watch rule after rule after rule, go through these rulemaking processes and watch our comments and our input get ignored. Well, now with the Chevron deference being what it is, that ruling being overturned, now they're forced to actually do it right and actually have people prove the necessity before Congress before putting it through. Instead of just putting a 45-day period, there's more involved. That's my point, because I don't know the exact process. But they're making it more difficult for people like the FMCSA and DOT to put these kind of controls without going to Congress and saying, this is why, and this is the date I have to prove it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the last thing you want is Congress to make laws for trucking, because they'll take the entire green book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, think about how many pages laws are already. They'll take the entire green book, pass that sucker as law, and now it's a law, and you got no choice in it. Yeah. Right now, it's a regulation. You violate it, you can data queue it, get it taken off. Once it's a law, you violate it, you get the penalty that's prescribed by that law, and they can put a penalty that says first violation's a fine, second violation suspension, third time you're gone. They can do what they want. And if it's a law, how many laws have you seen that you were able to challenge? I mean, think about all these laws, federal laws that they've passed. You got more challenge and regulation and more say in regulations or rules than you ever will in a law.
But think about what you're saying. If the Chevron thing is goes back to the way it was, Then, when you have a problem, you go to the courts. They say, "Oh no, it's up to the agency." You go to the courts, the agency, and they're like, "Oh no, that's the rule. Sorry, you have no say. You have no options. You have to follow that regulation." With the
Yep.
law, on the other hand, you can fight back.
Right.
You can try.
Well, and here's my thing.
There's something else we're missing.
That's why lawyers make money.
By the way, this law that we're talking about, this one by Senator Warren, this isn't new. This was introduced. The same exact bill was introduced in 2001 and 2021, and it did not clear the House and Senate, so it became a dead bill. Guess what's going to happen?
The only reason. Well, I was going to say the only reason it's coming up now is because of the recent ruling. They're trying to codify
right now. Do you know why it's coming up right now?
Why?
One reason: for gullible people to say, "Oh, they care about us truckers." They don't give a shit about us truckers. This is a feel-good bill that is never going to see a vote. I don't
think it feels good at all. I don't think it feels good at all.
I agree.
Late in the session, so it'll never get voted on.
What do you got to add, Fate?
I think Driving with John hit the nail on the head in the beginning of his argument. To think if you have no money and cannot line the pockets of something, that your voice even matters at all, you're foolish. The problem that this is the biggest problem I see in trucking in my 25-year career. We all have the answers. We all think we know what's right.
Yeah.
We're all, for the most part, individuals with our own ideas on how we want to operate, hence how we want to live our lives.
Exactly.
The big companies can have the financial backing to have regulations work for them and hurt me.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. They don't fight for the individual. They fight for themselves. They always do. These big companies do. Which, again, goes
just like we should do.
Well, exactly. And it goes part and parcel to the opening of the show. And the reason I have the show is because, you know what? No one speaks for the individual. No one does but you. Every day in America, we see rules, policies, situations, things happen. And these big companies get out and talk junk about it's benefiting you. It's not. I benefit me by actually choosing to do the job. I make the choice to get in and turn the key, not you. So as long as I'm alive, I'm going to have this platform and a way to make your voice count. Now, I may never get one of these videos up in front of Congress, and I may never be able to make a huge difference. But if I touch one person, that to me is worth it. And that's what it comes down to. No lawmaker, no outfit, no organization can ever replace what's up here. Nor can they imitate what's in here. That is individual to every one of us. Anybody got anything to add to that?
What are we supposed to argue with? What you have up here and what you have in here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, other than what we talked about, name a law that you think would be positively effective if we were actually able to codify the Chevron deference instead of the way Elizabeth Warren wants it. Name one thing that would actually help us.
If you could eliminate one law, you're saying?
Yeah, if you could eliminate one.
Oh, eliminate
rule?
one. Eliminate one?
Well, no, okay.
Or make one.
Scott, I get what you're talking about. Not eliminate.
I would
change.
Follow the laws, follow the regulations that are already in place.
Amen.
You should not be behind the wheel of a commercial vehicle if you can't read the road signs that you're going by. And I'm not saying that like rudely, like that should be enforced.
Dude, don't hold back. Tell us how.
The only reason I say that is I was involved in it. Well, no, I was involved in an accident with somebody that couldn't speak the language. How am I to where I had to call the police? How is that? And the police officer told me, yeah, there's nothing I can do. That's a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That the regulations that are on the book should be enforced, and they should be enforced hard. You know what I mean? That's my opinion. I think I'm gonna have, oh no, he's not coming to me.
No, I totally get what you're saying. Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry.
No,
I was just reading the comments down below, and Trucker Kersey was talking about how people are just too entitled these days, and new driver generations coming in and all that. Guys, it's not about your age; it's about your mentality, 100%. And I'll tell you why I say that. Yes, I'm an older dude. Yes, I came into truck older, and trucking older, and I understand that plays a big part in who I am. But if you come into trucking and you take it seriously, and you're mature about it, and you're willing to ask questions and do the research and everything there is, it's not about a generational thing. It's about a maturity level. It's about a mentally being ready for what you're taking on. And yeah, I don't think the newer generations. It's just a job to them. It's not a career or a something that's like what we all think it is.
Yeah.
So
let me ask one final question. I think this is important because it plays immensely with what we talked about the entire show. What role do you think public opinion should play in the debate over the power that federal agencies have over one industry? Not just trucking. Well, I'm picking on our industry because we are in it, but think about it. A federal agency wants to make a law, they can have carte blanche to do it. And our opinions can frankly be all so much as ignored. Do you think that should change?
Well, it did when the Chevron deference was overturned.
How is that different than Congress making a law?
But to the degree, John, it forces the hand of the courts, not everybody else. I'm talking about public opinion now. Because right now they can put through this 45-day commentary, and they can literally, and they've proven it to us, throw away our input and make their own laws.
That cost her job.
Well, yes, you're talking right, but again, to the degree that it did cost her job, and we are where we are today, what role should our input and our opinion play? It currently seems as if it plays none. Should that change?
Okay.
That's
so let me say one thing real quick.
Go ahead, Scott.
My input on anything is for the benefit of me. It's not for the benefit of any of you on the panel, any of you in the chat, nothing. I am selfish when it comes to my business. I care less about you and your business. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being honest.
Right.
My input on what I would like to see changed, just like I said about the big companies, might hurt somebody that doesn't have the experience that I have in this industry. You know what I mean? Okay. So I don't want to say I want to leave it to somebody else to regulate an industry that I'm part of, but every job I have ever had, even outside of trucking, has had some form of regulation.
True.
From some other entity. That's just the world we live in.
It is.
That trucking with what was her name? Kersey says like the new generation is like bratty. What do you think this is? I'm 44 years old. I have entitlement issues. I'm a business owner. I better have entitlement issues. You know what I mean? I want like this idea, like I said.
Everybody wants, just as Lisa says, what she says. Everybody wants fairness and equity. But there's a cost with that. Lisa says there has to be regulations and they have to come from a central body. Fair is not equal, and you'll never get everyone to agree. And that's part of the nature of life. Life, forget it's trucking, forget it's anything. No one person will agree. You know, with what Scott or with Faith just said, you know what? Everybody is selfish to a degree. I am, he is, John, midlife, we're all selfish to a degree.
Not
But
me.
to the
My shirt
degree
has my
that
name on it.
to the degree that it serves the best interest of the industry, I feel if it can be done right, it can serve you as well as everyone. Now, if you cut off your own nose to spite your face, then you're nothing but a bureaucrat. So there has to be a fine line there. You know, I mean, and that's, again, it's the purpose of my show. So yeah, Fate, I agree with you. We need, I think personally, in terms of the question I asked earlier, I think we need more time, and I think our input in the industry needs to be valued more than it does currently. Because as Louis Pugh did point out, there are too many people up there calling the shots, and they're not even part of the industry. I think that needs to change. And if one thing comes out of the Chevron deference ruling, I think just the idea that we examine that alone, if that is all, then that's a plus.
I agree
Final
with
thoughts,
that, I
guys?
guess.
Can I
Go ahead, John.
respond? Can I respond to a couple of comments here real quick? Go down
Go
2
ahead.
comments.
Okay. Vivian?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, they're saying 100% we should all have a say in it, and I agree with that. But
Yes.
just remember, some of the people that we're giving a say to aren't truckers, okay? As a social media guy, I can tell you I get more comments of people telling me I should never, ever be allowed anywhere except for the granny lane, anywhere in the country, than I do any other comment. So
Yes.
if we're going to put it out for vote, that's one thing I really don't want the general public having a vote in, because honestly,
Yeah.
that would be more of a problem than anything else. The other comment I
Right.
wanted to bring up, and I 100% agree, and I think someone else already said this, is the next one down. He says, "What just enforce the rules we have. Let's stop making new ones and enforce the ones we have." I think Bate said that. I 100% agree with that. Like, guys, can't we just kind of enforce the ones we have before we worry about making some new ones?
Yeah. I think I've run the entire gamut on recent shows about the idea that, and Louis Pugh did open up his testimony to Congress pointing this out. Congress is very selective with what they choose to pay attention to. And I guess it just depends on the direction of the winds at the time. And I really do think a lot can be said for that. Because you know what? One thing that never changes is trucking is needed. Okay, as long as you've got freight on docks and ports, you have a need for trucks. You can only put just so much on rail cars, and you can only put just so much in box trucks. But OTR trucking is the lifeblood of this economy. If you put in rules and regulations that don't see the benefit and the necessity for at least consistency, the industry will fall apart. I personally am of the opinion, I'm sorry, Tom, I don't agree with you, but I'm personally of the opinion the Chevron difference, if nothing else, puts the feet to the fire of the people in the places it matters most to put up or shut up. And if at the same time they're passing these rules, force the requirements of those that are in place that have made the rules, enforce them. Last word to you, Fate. What do you got to say?
Well, I typically agree with you, and this time I'm going to have to disagree with you. It doesn't put the people's feet to the fire. It just allows people with money to influence them. That's all it does. Not that it didn't do it before, but it just opened the door for more of that. And one last thing.
Good.
I started trucking when I was 19. We had these debates when I was 19 years old. This is trucking. Plain and simple, this is trucking.
A more appropriate plug that deserves to be mentioned here, to Fate's credit, that's trucking. Anyway, folks, I enjoyed the conversation today. I'd like you to take all the time necessary, go to each and every one of these channels, show these men some love. They represent the heartbeat of what this industry is all about. They, you, and everybody watching, we guys are what make the trucking industry what it is today. It's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make the difference. Keep watching the news. Keep believing only the views that suit you. Until next time, keep the faith, and by all means, keep it rolling.